Alright, so here we are back in the Barton farm for our last little bit here. We've got a couple of character tokens left to find. We've got some gold bricks to liberate. And then we are going to be moving on to some other piece of territory to go and unlock everything. We're getting closer and closer to 100%ing a lot of this stuff, as we are using Clea here to try to figure out how to make this little box open for us. So if you looked at the timestamp, you realize that yes, we actually did manage to get another video put out in just a day rather than a month after the previous one. And to give you a sort of an idea of a timestamp, we talked about the national championship game in basketball yesterday, and the big event running around the news right now is the U.S. Tomahawk missile strike on Syria. A lot of people, sort of had mixed feelings about the Tomahawk missile strike. People who supported Donald Trump during his presidential campaign did so with the belief that he was going to keep us out of situations like Syria, even if terrible things were happening. People who had more sort of traditional views of American power since about 1991, were pretty much applauded Trump's action here. And if you look at sort of what they decided to do, it does sort of resemble an episode out of The West Wing, where I think President Bartlett decided to blow up the Syrian intelligence headquarters, at like 3 a.m. in the morning, so that he could send a message, but by the same token, not necessarily kill anybody doing it. So those are the two reactions. My feelings personally, and this is probably the first time I've gotten into any sort of political topic on this channel, while Beta Ray Bill is trying to figure out how to get over to this this last character token here. My personal feeling, I thought the Syrian use of chemical weapons had to be responded to. I'm not sure that they shouldn't have responded stronger than what they did. I mean, after all, the Syrians were able to use the airstrip that they, fired the Tomahawks at, within 24 hours of the missile strike. But one thing is for certain. I've seen a lot of talk about, we should just, it's okay if we go around and just bomb things. And that kind of concerns me. Again, I think President Assad of Syria deserves any sort of nasty thing that happens to him at this point. But that being said, we do need to remember that there was no prior authorization given to this attack, other than the Trump administration just deciding to do it. There was no effort to include Congress, where, of course, the constitutional war-making power is. And there was no authorization previously granted to the president that allowed for a military strike against Assad. While the United States may not currently recognize the Syrian government of Assad, it doesn't mean that we have any sort of outstanding declaration of war against him, or some sort of police order from the International Criminal Court to go get him, or something of that nature. The only authorization of force that we have at the moment is the 2001 authorization of force, which says that the president can use military force to go after people related to the attacks on September 11th of that year. It's basically a declaration of war against Al-Qaeda, which was not a conventional, opponent. It's not a country. And so, that 2001 force authorization has been used many times to do many different things in many different places. Probably places you don't even realize it's been used. In fact, it is really the basis behind why we're able to attack ISIS in its bases in Syria. Because ISIS got its creation out of elements that at one point in time were members of Al-Qaeda in Iraq. Al-Qaeda in Iraq, of course, was a subset of Al-Qaeda that was created post-2003 to try to mess around with U.S. interests while we were busy fighting the Iraq War. So, in a sense, anytime we attack ISIS in Syria, we are fulfilling the 2001 objective of using military force against people who had some tangential connection and places that had some tangential connection to 9/11. That does not include Assad. Okay, President Assad is was the recognized leader of Syria up to a point. The United States never declared war on Syria. Syria was never identified as a conspirator in the 2001 attacks. Nor was Syria included in the 2003 forced resolution against Iraq. So we need to be careful here. The people who are out there saying that, oh, well, we're already blowing up stuff in Syria anyway. Now we're just blowing up something else in Syria. Need to be careful because there is no legal ramification, for we have no legal document to support the president bombing Assad other than some moral idea that it was the right thing to do. Which again, I would agree that it was the right thing to do morally. However, it also meant that the president would have to now direct a serious policy toward Syria. And my concern is that this attack, this small attack against this one airstrip in Syria, which doesn't really deal with the issue, because if the issue is humanitarian, violation of human rights by using chemical weapons on Syrian civilians, then the job's not done until the delivery system of that stuff, which would be the Syrian Air Force, would get removed from the picture. I don't think we're going to see that. Instead, I think this is basically the equivalent of a Donald Trump Twitter outbreak, just with large explosive devices. Again, it's early, and we don't know what exactly the president's ultimate objectives might be, but right now we're seeing a lot of tactics and not a lot of strategy being employed on the ground. And things are so much better if there's a plan. Even if it's a plan that people may not like, there still needs to be some logic to it, something we can attach to it. The president got ticked off one day is not a national security strategy. So those are my feelings on where things are in Syria as of, I guess this is the early morning of April 9th. 2017. This is the anniversary of the surrender of the Confederate forces at Appomattox, which, although it's advertised as the end of the Civil War, did not end the Civil War. So, just be careful if you run across that. And right now I'm doing a lot of switching between Spider-Man and Iron Patriot in order to unlock these targets and then fire at them. Probably I could use a character like Falcon and do both of these things with the same character, not have to switch around as much. But, I'm not going to stop using characters I like to use. As we keep going. The latest Marvel news, there's still no word on whether Marvel wants to extend Chris Evans' contract as Captain America beyond the Avengers movie in 2019 that we still don't know what exactly the subject matter of will be. Sort of a similar thing with Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man. Both these guys' contracts pretty much up. Now, with Downey, they've been, kind of bringing him into other projects in order to give those higher profile. So they brought him into Captain America Civil War. They brought him in to Spider-Man Homecoming. We still don't know how exactly that's going to turn out, but they did bring him. They are using Downey, so I mean it's not like they could be building up a thing for Downey to have a continued role in the universe, or potentially they could be looking at replacing these characters with other characters. In a sense, given Iron Man's relationship with Spider-Man, as they're going to do it in the cinematic universe, I think it's quite likely that Spider-Man will become Iron Man's replacement, kind of on the hero roster in those movies. Captain America could be replaced, such as you can see Sam Wilson here. Captain America could be replaced by either the Falcon version of the character, like we see, or possibly the Winter Soldier version of Captain America. Just because we're moving, I think moving on from Steve Rogers and Robert Downey Jr. Moving on from Chris Evans, and therefore Steve Rogers, and Robert Downey Jr. and maybe Tony Stark, is a good idea for the movie universe as a whole, because once you make enough movies where everyone sort of makes it, it kind of turns off the impact. The idea that superheroes are immortal. Nothing can happen to these guys. And I think that sort of lessens the stakes. You then start going to a superhero movie not because or you go to a superhero movie not because of drama or suspense or excitement, but simply like, okay, let's see some guys beat up some stuff, which basically is the Transformers franchise right now. So those are my views on these things as Miles Morales is going to stealth his way, and we're getting closer to the end of the Barton farm. Not sure if I'm looking forward to leaving the Barton farm or not, because it means that we're getting closer and closer to having the gold brick hunt in Manhattan be the last thing that we have to do, and that is going to be there's going to be a lot of sameness, I think, running around Manhattan going after gold bricks. But here's our last gold brick in this level, brought to us by Black Panther. And I'll see you guys soon.